Now, since the establishment of JobsBridge in 2011, the national internship scheme has been the subject of continuous debate. Its supporters have welcomed it as providing participants the opportunity to gain experience through a quality internship, while its critics have labelled it a vehicle for widespread exploitation. Aside from JobsBridge, in the last 5 years, the number of graduates working for free has continued to rise as alumni try to gain experience and secure much coveted employment. But should you ever work for free, or does it devalue your professional worth? To discuss all of this, we're joined by the Vice President of Equality and Citizenship with the Union of Students in Ireland, Laura Harmon. Laura, good morning.
Good morning.
Businessman Ben Dunne is here. Ben, good morning.
Good morning.
And Recruitment Manager with CPL Recruitment Peter Cosgrove. Peter, good morning to you. Laura, first of all, do you think it's a good idea, this interning, doing it for free?
Well, I'm not against internships. I mean, I think internships have always had a role in the economy where there's been a skills mismatch. But I think the issue now is that there's been a transformation of what role internships play in the economy, in that we're no longer just, solving the skills mismatch. But the reality is that there just simply aren't enough jobs to go around. There are 26 applications for every job that's advertised at the moment. And this is a huge issue.
So when people say, yeah, we haven't got a job for you, but you can come in and watch what we do and maybe help out a bit, and you'll get something for your CV. Do you think it's a good idea that people should take that up?
I think if the internship is structured and if there are clear guidelines and a clear definition of what skills the person is going to achieve throughout it, so if there's a clear learning process for the intern and if there's an agreement as to the time frame of the internship itself, then I think certainly they can be useful. But I think there's a difference between exploitation and...
Is it going on? Is there exploitation going on a grand scale?
Certainly, I think that the JobsBridge scheme itself has lost an awful lot of credibility, if not most of its credibility. I mean, we've all heard the anecdotal stories of, companies advertising for things like, people to wash cars, people to make sandwiches. Also, other companies are, simply taking advantage of the skills that many people actually possess already. For, we'll say, web designers.
So it's not training. In fact, they're doing useful work.
Exactly.
And they're not being paid.
I mean, the Indicon report indicated that 29% of people who were on JobsBridge, eventually did get a position.
Job.
Yeah, with one of their host organisations. However, that report also indicated that 29% of companies said that, even if JobsBridge hadn't existed, they would have been willing to hire somebody anyway. So essentially, we are replacing, in many senses, paid work with internships.
Ben Dunne, should people have a go at these things? You're sitting at home, you have nothing to do, and then the opportunity comes along to go into a company, see what they do, work for nothing.
In principle, I think that nobody should have to work for nothing.
If you do work, you get paid.
If you do work, you get paid. I take the point about if you're doing work experience. And if somebody wants to get work experience, it should be work experience. In my business, we take people on work experience. We take them in between the hours of about 11 and 2. We don't pay them. We give them complete free usage of the club. It only lasts for a 4 to 6 week period. And out of this work experience, we see the odd good one, and when they qualify, we automatically take them on as part-time, and from there they get into a full-time job. But
so these are people who have an aptitude or an ambition to be in the business.
Correct. They're interested in the health and fitness business. They contact us about work experience. We bring them in, we teach them things. We only take them on at times when we have the time to teach them. There's not much point in taking them on a Monday evening when every member of the staff is completely tied up looking after our customers or our members.
But this is time limited. You say that it's 4 to 6 weeks, and after that...
It's exploitation after that. I wouldn't allow it to go on.
Yeah. And you also, I know, feel very strongly about people being paid to do nothing.
Oh, I think that's nearly worse. I think that there should be some reason why people have got to get up out of bed in the morning. And if you're getting money for nothing, you see it with loads of rich people, and you see it with loads of people drawing the dole. And their purpose to live is not being motivated enough. I mean, it's very important that young people in particular, that there's a reason to get up out of bed and do something in the morning.
Even, you see, that's the question, if they're not being paid to do it. In other words, rather than lie in bed, they decide, I'll go into firm X or firm Y or firm Z, even though I'm not being paid to do it or being paid a pittance, because I'll even have a social life through that place. You know, I'll meet people. I won't be sitting at home annoying my parents or whatever.
Yeah, but I think if it's done that way, it's going to lead to exploitation. I think that maybe the government should have a scheme where I see lots of roundabouts, I see lots of footpaths full of weeds, I see lots of things that young people could do.
Lots of jobs that need doing but are not being done. This is what they call workfare rather than welfare in other jurisdictions.
Well, if that's the name, I'm not really familiar with that. But I do think that people should be encouraged to do something. The government are paying them X euros per week, and these people should be made do something to make sure they get up out of bed in the morning. It's good for their mind. An empty mind or an idle mind, as I know, can lead to all sorts of difficulties.
So nothing for nothing, bottom line.
In principle, nothing
in
for
principle.
nothing.
Peter, how much of this is going on, do you think, that people are being brought into companies doing useful work and not being paid appropriately?
It is to some degree. One thing I would say is now with social media, where things aren't going well, people will talk about it a lot quicker. So the time in the past where somebody felt they were being exploited, nowadays somebody will mention that to a friend on social media, and there's been a couple of job bridge examples where companies' names have been mentioned very, very quickly when the job was not a real job. So I think there's more protection because nobody wants their brand to be out there linked to exploitation. I personally think you need to look at this as an individual, as you as a job seeker, not worry about everyone else, just worry about you. Completely of the view with Ben that you should be working. And I think there's lots of studies that people who don't work in their 20s are much more likely not to work in their 50s, much more likely to have issues with self-esteem, depression. So we need people working. That's the first thing. The second thing is I am happier with the internship maybe than the other two from the point of view that I think even if you're not getting paid, you're getting value. If somebody's actually giving you a lot of their time, I mean, I look at business, whether let's say the media business, the journalism business, TV business, a lot of businesses where it is very difficult to get a paid job, and you'll never get a job without experience. So this is a way in the door. And if somebody's giving you that amount of time and their experience, that's actually hugely beneficial, and that's the bit that I think is very important. So I would worry about you, not worry about the overall scheme. And I think a couple of the checkpoints are: if the job is something that they should be paying for you for, you need to ask that, absolutely. And secondly, if you think they won't pay you at any stage, you have to think about that. But we've taken on 3 or 4 from the Job Rich scheme, and I'll be honest, at 3 months they were on the intern schemes, they were being paid their social welfare plus the €50 top up, and they're all now working for us full time. Because companies now are being very realistic that they're going to be very, very nimble, very, very agile, and they want to see if somebody's going to work out for them. And you have so much more of a chance of getting a full-time job if they see you and they trust you and they like you.
Well, that's what Ben is talking about.
Yeah.
He brings the people in, and you see the good ones and you offer them the opportunity.
Now, the other thing that I think people should think of, I would find it quite acceptable if you were going for an interview and if you felt you were doing well, that you said to the person, look, to prove that I'm able to do this job, I'll work for 1 month for nothing. Now, that might give you an edge, and it might give the person who's interviewing you, it might give them, that's an opportunity that I'll take. I mean, I see nothing wrong with that, but you as the person who
you're in charge of
that decision. That's the point I'm making. But if you leave it for the employers, and they say, well, we'll offer you an internship and we'll teach you here and we'll teach you there, you'll find in a lot of cases these companies are trying to reduce costs, and this is the easiest way that I would know of to reduce costs. Like receptionists used to be a very important job. Now it's not that important in a lot of businesses. You just get an answer phone, and so you could replace receptionists with people who are looking for a job and want to work for nothing. That I can see exploitation written all over it.
And that's one of the problems. Now, Peter, in your business, you're in the recruitment business. Do firms actually approach you and say, will you find people who work for nothing for us?
No. That's not, if they're going to do that, they do it themselves firstly. But it's not actually how they do it. A lot of people are saying, well, we do have an opportunity here. So there are areas, let's say like marketing, like social media, that a lot of people are going, it's new, we don't really know that much about it, we need someone young who understands this, but we don't really know what the opportunity is. If you can come in here and demonstrate there's an opportunity here, absolutely. And one thing I'd take is there's a lot of people who do this for themselves. So if you work as a blogger or you work as a journalist, a lot of people are doing this for themselves to build up a reputation. So they're not working for anyone else, but they're actually not getting paid.
And they're not making any money at all on their blog.
So, but their view is this is a long-term investment in me and my future. So no one says to them, oh my God, you're being exploited, because they're doing it themselves. So some people who go into an organisation are actually saying, well, no, I don't feel I'm being exploited. I feel that I'm working, I'm getting a social life, but more importantly, I've got a long-term career ahead of me.
Is there a difficulty? You've got two workers in a place, and one is an intern working for nothing, doing the same work as someone who's being paid.
Yeah.
And the person who's working for nothing has no money for a social life, no money to go out. And the resentment that must build up on one side, I'm doing this and I'm not getting paid. And on the other side, someone saying, there's Josephine who's come in here and she's working for nothing and I'm being paid. Is my job under threat? Because there are people queuing up to do it for nothing.
And that's the key difference between whether you're taking somebody in as an addition that you're looking for a future job in your organisation, as opposed to absolutely what Ben, Laura, saying when they're just exploiting you and replacing you. And
now, Laura, people at home, if they are at home, it's probably because they're not working or else they've been on night shift. Let's presume a lot of them are not working. What would you say to them about those kind of decisions? I mean, a personal decision, according to Peter, if you want to volunteer your time for nothing, and Ben said the same. You could give yourself an edge by going in, but at the same time, you feel you've diminished yourself by selling what you have for nothing.
I mean, I think it's important that they conduct the research into the position, see how clearly advertised the internship is, what skills it outlines that they're going to attain, and also have a conversation with the organisation or the host company as to an agreement for what it will entail and how long it will be.
But you're not really in an empowered position when you're looking for a job. You're at your most vulnerable.
And
really.
I completely disagree with this argument that it's better to be out working or doing something than doing nothing, because I think then we're saying that it's better that people should be exploited than to do nothing.
No, but doing nothing, Ben is suggesting, is bad for the soul.
Yeah, but if you're in a job, working for free, doing something that's very demotivating. I mean, what kind of message is that sending out to young people?
Which demotivates you more? Lying at home in bed in the morning watching daytime TV or working for nothing in a company where you feel exploited? That's the dilemma.
I think the key thing that I suppose the government need to take into account is to ensure that internships are valuable for young people. I think there needs to be a clear definition of what skills can be exchanged to constitute what an internship is. What is the difference between an internship and a job? And I think as well we need to move towards a more formalised approach. I think people that do internships should attain some sort of a certificate afterwards. We need to institute some sort of an oversight body, which will include, employers' representatives, representatives from unions and government, and also have an ombudsman so that people who are being exploited can actually
is this
repeal.
Not a complete kind of Celtic Tiger legacy? Ombudsman for this, ombudsman for that, another quango that's going to ensure.
I think it's really important that people
are. Is there a sense of entitlement in the post Celtic Tiger generation? They feel because there used to be a job right throughout the Celtic Tiger. That's no longer the case, and it wasn't the case for generations before. They had to make their own way in the world.
I think people are entitled to make a complaint if they're being treated unfairly, so I do think it's very important that those structures are in place, and I think an ombudsman would be extremely beneficial.
Ben?
Well, look, I don't believe in ombudsmen, but I will tell you where I believe exploitation is going on right now. You have Irish workers and you have foreign workers. There's a lot of companies who are switching to foreign workers so they can pay them less. Now, that's exploitation. We have both Irish and foreign workers in our business. They get the same rate of pay. And I know of a lot of situations where people have replaced Irish workers with foreign workers and are paying them less. Well, that's exploitation.
I'm not sure, though, just that legally can't be done anymore. The Agency Workers Directive came in last year, which basically says you have to pay an agency worker the exact same amount as you would pay the equivalent.
But for example,
worker.
if you have, in the catering industries, for example, if you have people who are willing, because they're not married, they don't have kids here, willing to work split shifts, for example, whereas Irish people with kids going to school can't take those jobs.
reality of what's most competitive for an organisation, they're always going to go for something competitive, but that's a little bit different as in, they're actually just racing to the bottom. You're going to get what you pay for as well, and we're going to have to be more competitive as job seekers, and that's just the reality of it.
The other thing I'd say, we say, you know, there was something introduced, you can't do it any longer. You know, it's like anything. Whether is it being policed? I'm telling you, I know for a fact where people have been replaced by foreign workers, and the foreign workers are earning less. I know this for a fact, and it's not been policed. It's all blooming fine to say we've got this organisation monitoring this and that, these quangos, but they're not doing their job.
Quango. This is just legislation.
There's a lot of legislation that isn't.
I just think it's dangerous to say they're foreign workers. I think Irish workers replace other Irish workers. There's nothing to do with foreign workers. We employ lots of people who are foreign workers who've got incredible skill sets who come into our organisation, and they're the people who actually upskill our Irish people in certain areas like science, engineering, where we sometimes are missing those skill sets. But there is always going to be a bit of that going on. But I'm just saying the legislation in the last year makes it very easy to go to the Labour Court to actually get that overturned.
But here's something. What about people with children, according to the texter here, Grania? How can they compete with people who will work for free when if someone with children has to pay for childcare to work for free?
Yeah,
so that they just are not in a competitive marketplace.
They're not, and that has never changed. I mean, that's the same as 20 years ago, 50 years ago, and that is a reality, and that's always going to be the case. But they actually have, I always think, look at your strengths. When you actually, so often people say to me, I'm not going to get a job because I'm too old. I go, well, the reality is people will look at you and go, well, you're also not going to be out partying every night. You're also not going to think casual Friday means casual working. Usually your manners, you're very polite, because people who are a bit older generally had the airs and graces or the positives.
Before we conclude this, I want to ask all of you to imagine that person in the lab this morning, lying in bed, listening to us, and there is the opportunity to work for nothing somewhere or stay in bed. What would you say, Peter?
I would say, firstly, do a little bit of research. The most important person is the person you're going to be working for. And you ask them some specific questions about what am I going to do, what am I going to learn, have a little bit of a plan as to what your day and week and month is going to be. So there's some objectives. If you have that and you look at this as an opportunity where you're going to learn something, and remember, learning something can be even sitting at a front desk, you're getting customer service skills. The best jobs, in a way, that I've done are the worst jobs because I learned the most from them.
Laura, what would you say to people in that situation, lying in bed listening to us?
I'd agree with a lot of what Peter said in terms of doing adequate research, but I'd also like to say to them that it isn't your fault. The situation and the economic situation we find ourselves in isn't at the fault of young people of this country. It's at the fault of previous governmental decisions, and I think that's something that they need to always remind themselves of.
Don't blame themselves, Ben.
I read a couple of the national newspapers before I came in this morning, jobs section, and I saw hundreds of jobs advertised. So the person who's lying in bed this morning, if they really want a job, all they got to do is read the paper. They mightn't get the one they exactly want, but it'll get them out of bed. And anything is better than lying in bed doing nothing.
On that note, Ben Dunne, thank you very much for joining us. Peter Cosgrove, Recruitment Manager with CPL, thank you. And the President of Equality, Vice President of Equality and Citizenship with the Union of Students in Ireland, Laura Harmon, thank you very much.